What's going on here? I think what I want to do... Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this kind of stuff. It just starts after the gap. Hey. No. Hey, man. Appreciate you coming by, saying hi. Hope you're doing well, too. Excuse me. Nah, it went low. It went too low. I mean, it's pretty close to where we thought it was going to be right here, but it's like too low. It's still like curling out. I don't know how I feel about this. I think 10 cents is pretty likely if it doesn't make it all the way up. But, all right, so it's still beneath, and we didn't know this if this was going to work out or not. It's still beneath that trend. So we had kind of said that we thought that that was possible. It could jump over, but it didn't really matter. Let's see. Let's just use something really simple. I think this is a pretty decent estimator of possibility long term. This is a full move right here, so but what's wrong with this, maybe the angle. So I mean that's substantially low. If it drops down to here, it's like 5 cents. It's still got divergence right now, so you know, we're doing, I'm going to do like an indicator themed day today. I've been looking at a few different ones, but there's a couple I want to check out, and I don't know if I have to pay for them or not, but I'd like to check them out. And I thought we could look at something different like Coca-Cola or something. That one's kind of in the headlines today, and just use it as a metric. But I don't do like indicator reviews very often, if at all, because there's not really much point to it. If you like an indicator and it works for you, you use it, you know. I use pretty basic stuff. So the idea of this, the idea that came to me that I have these ones that I got through like TradingView news, and every now and then I just kind of peek in and see what they are and what they're about. And I don't know. So I'm just kind of curious. I haven't actually used them. I would say that this looks fairly so-so. Like, I'm not really very happy with that move just yet. Like, I have issues with this coming out. Like, it's curling out, but I don't know, man. That pattern almost always, and maybe I'm wrong because this is RSI, but that pattern almost always ends in some kind of like upthrust. You know, it's like a cat ear build out. So I'm like looking at this thinking like, did they already do that? Did they already create to some degree? And I know this is just RSI, but did they already create like a trend breakdown here? And I think they did here. You kind of just have to take it with a grain of salt when we do these kinds of things, because indicators are not always the best. You know, they're not going to necessarily tell you exactly what's going to happen. Very few indicators are actually leading indicators anyways. So this would have been what we would call like a bit of a weakness. And then I'm wondering if that reflected at all in the price action, but weirdly it didn't, because this actually stays higher than the two bottom trends here. So, hey. So this could be a reflection of like a breakdown after the breakdown. So there's two things. One would be like, you could think of it like a liquidity dive. Like once it kind of breached that was a great place to buy in. So if there was something similar that happened here and it got above this, that might be a really good place to buy if you saw that move happen early in the morning or something. But there's the problem of like, if this is a breakdown, this could kind of list until maybe right before, and it really doesn't have to break out at all. You see how low this thing has come before, back to basically nothing. So if it's prepping for that split, I do wonder if it's going to wait till like the last minute, and then this is really just like a hook. Same thing, I would just say like our targets were pretty conservative. I think we were just thinking like that's potentially a bottom, and it is. I still think it's potentially a bottom. One might look at this and suggest that perhaps we're experiencing something of a setup, sort of like here, where it's dipping below, again, a liquidity dive. So like if the RSI looked like, if the price action looked like the RSI, so if the price action was like this and it had a weakness and then it broke down, I'd be like, nah, it's probably going to go down. Now, I don't know if you can read too much into that on, yeah, that's where it would go. I don't know if you can read too much into that on something like RSI, and if their widening really does ever kind of come to fruition, but that's where I'd probably put it. It may even be a situation where it's creating like a secondary. It's possible. So it's like widening out here. Yeah. That's my guess. I think you're seeing something like this, where we're going to get potentially stuck here. If it gets above it, you could have a bigger move. And then again, most of these had roughly 50% retracements. So that's still like right up there at 0.099. It's really close to 10 cents. So it's really similar to kind of what we were just saying. It's not like way off. At least for now. So how would you make that into a good trade? Probably just wait until it breaks back above here, and then if it's probably going to just fly, but it's a good 20%. So yeah, I wanted to look at some indicators. I found some that are pretty interesting. Like these are heavily coded indicators. They don't have, you can't easily replicate them, I guess what I'm saying. You could get like source code and stuff for them. And I've got some screenshots for them. I'm going to take a look. The market looks kind of red here at a glance, but that's not quite right. It's a mixed bag. We've got some earnings this week, and then FOMC. I don't believe there's a meeting. I could be wrong. There's a, they are meeting, but there'll be like notes, but there won't be like a press conference, if I'm not mistaken. I believe there's no press conference today. But they will have like meeting notes, and they're going to be looking and seeing if there's anything that's changed. And that'll happen within the next hour anyways, even if there was a meeting. They'll release those notes. Apple has earnings, I think tonight or Thursday, I guess, night. That's actually still a day off. I wasn't particularly worried about Apple until it sort of peaked early here, and I'm still bullish on Apple like long term, but I can't really suggest right now that this looks great. To me, if you're looking at the bigger wave, it just looks like it's failed, and I can't tell if it's really just waiting for earnings or what. But it just did not. It's like approach this top 1, 2, 3, and then fourth time it kind of rejected off of it. So it just looks weak. They're expecting it's probably going to beat earnings. A lot of people think it's going to surprise and beat, but I mean, as far as I've read it up on it, they closed one store in China, like that was headline news. But yeah, if China tariffs, I think that was another problem, was the China tariffs were looking like they had a framework, but they may not come to an agreement before August 1st, which is coming up. So potentially some of those tariffs go into play if there's no agreement made. They're looking to see if there's going to be an extension on that framework, and I don't believe that's been announced. I think if they announce the extension on the framework and there's a good earnings, this is a really good chance of popping to like 220. However, the pattern here has been fairly consistent, which is sort of this up-down pattern, and there have been some times occasionally where the up is a little bit late or a little bit early. But in this case, if that was the upside, it could have been early, and that was like 215. It just didn't break out. So it looks a lot like a double top to me right now, and I'm just waiting to see if it holds the creek. And this creek is a bit strange because it's already been broken a couple times here and there, but it has very clear evidence of support and resistance. Can you turn that down a little bit, son? Hey, can you turn it down a little bit? So it doesn't have to be super quiet. It's very loud for me. So like this to me looks like it could be a wave cross. There's an issue of like a 205 gap below, and if it goes down to the 205, I don't think it's dead, but I would imagine that it's probably not going to stop there at this point, because there's a longer standing creek that's pretty low, down at like 200. So I don't know why you would stop at 205 at this point. If it had gone down there earlier, I probably would have been happier about it. If it had like made that drop here, I think it would have been done. But instead they left it open, and now they're high. You can just see it. So on the one hand, does this S curve right here, does this look like a resistance with maybe a support building up soon? Potentially, yeah, but there's still like another day. It's sort of the opposite of what we saw here, right? Where there's a hook underneath it that drops it. This could be kind of a reversal action that causes it to pop. Do I think it's going to pop like as much as this pop down? Probably not. But this is a similar area. If you look at it, this is March. So that move is coming around the same trajectory path into the same coordinates. It's an interesting ideas. Apple was one that did get hit pretty darn hard by tariffs, so certainly a possibility there could be a big dump in store here. I'm still bullish on it longer term. I think it's going to easily go to like 300. I don't think that's even a question in my mind. Most of your analyst targets are clustered up here around like 250, but there's like 3 gaps right here at 250, so it's whatever. Anyways, I was bringing up Google because I was talking about how like the market's a little mixed. Google went back and reached back to near 200. It's kind of in a limbo state. I could certainly see why it could rug pull here, just depending on what happens. This is a 1 hour, so it's already overbought by a decent bit. It looks like it's trying to turn down a bit. It's a recovery from what happened to earnings and the drop afterwards. Really just want to see continuation if Google's going to continue. From a fundamental standpoint, there's really no reason for Google not to run right now. Like, it had a double beat, and the outlook was pretty positive with all their AI initiatives and junk. They were really concerned about search engine stuff, but it didn't really present like a huge issue like revenue. and like how much people are using search engines. I think the search engines are like dead because of ChatGPT. But anyways, it was fine. So they have a gap up here at 206. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this have some serious volatility into the end of the week and maybe Monday, down and up. I don't really care. I just think it's probably going to be pretty volatile right here. On the big picture, this is a trend, and really doesn't need to hit like highs. If you look at the trend wave, it could definitely have some sideways and downtime going into September. August and September tend to be kind of crappy months for the market. So I'm just timing it out, looking at it, and I'm like, all right, this is where it crossed over. Doubling that value is like out here in beginning of September. So my expectations are light. If it breaks out, cool, that'll be interesting. And if it doesn't, it's kind of expected. If I saw it come back down to 185, I probably wouldn't bat an eye to see this kind of move happen right here. So it is what it is. So you should short it. Well, I mean, it's definitely overextended on the 4-hour as well. But Google's one of those stocks where even in the midst of that, this was like a long-term uptrend. In 2024, going up into July, and then of course there's a corrective time, August, September, October, right here. So that's kind of what I'm wondering. We're going to see a little bit of a corrective phase right in here. But I'm saying that because this was really very overbought. It basically didn't drop below 50 on average this whole time. That's a big move. That's a 30% upside. So considering that we just went back to oversold down here at 162, right? Look how long from oversold here, just again, in a bullish market, from 130 all the way up to the peak. This is the last time it was oversold on the 4-hour. This is a big move, It's 50%. Does that mean we're definitely running 50%? No. This is a different time, obviously. But by comparison, I think it's fair to say, like, you can't really judge a book by its indicator in this case. Like, it's fast, it's crazy, but I could definitely see some shakeouts here in the short term. So yeah, I could totally see this going up to 250 pretty easily. But when does it get there? It may be a while. It may be October. I think I bought calls that are pretty far out. I bought October 17th, so for like 225 strike. So I mean, so far they've been so-so. They're basically at zero. Like I'm down 3%, which is nothing for a call option. One of them is up a couple percent, one's down a couple percent. They're averaging out. But I don't necessarily think it's impossible that this has kind of a shakeout right here, just on the basis of what we're seeing. And then that being said, we'll kind of move on. I wanted to talk about these indicators. Yeah, so the highest it looks like this has ever gotten really is here and here, which is about 80s. That's on the 4-hour. I'm not even looking at daily. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I got out of IonQ. So I rode this sucker up. This is a weekly chart. And I rode this thing up from like 30 to 50. I mean, I made a huge amount of profit on that. But there's some gap zones way down here at like 30. And I wasn't really sure, but I was like, there's a decent chance if this has a backup, it comes back pretty low. So like long term, it may be a cup and handle. And even longer term than that, it may be a cup and handle, like a bigger one. What I did notice was this area right here looks very, very similar, if not exactly the same as this setup over here, which is really fascinating. So it's a rising iteration of sorts. I also noted that, the RSI had kind of turned down on this last batch. I don't think it's a bad thing because it didn't make a higher high, but it's just something, again, to like kind of pay attention to. So we're not going to look at IonQ, but I think it's a good buy. It's one of those early adopting quantum stocks, but kind of waiting. I think they haven't really had their big breakout moment yet. Like they've had a couple, but their big one hasn't come yet. So I think it's a good one to keep an eye on. So let's look at Coca-Cola. So what I want to do is go through some of these interesting indicators that I found, and everybody's like, do this, do that. Sorry, I had an idea of what I wanted to do today, so gasp. So some of you guys are going to clock out. Some are going to be happy campers and chill out, because you're probably a little bit interested. So these are indicators that promise to have sort of like breakout moments or buy-in moments. And I think they're kind of interesting. So I was looking at some of them. I haven't pulled them up on here. I was just looking on the TradingView website. I was kind of browsing through, and I found a couple that I liked. And I do this periodically, so I'm gonna have to kind of scroll through my phone and get these screenshots. But these are ones that are, again, they're not like cookie cutter. They tend to be a little bit more, I should have brought them up before I started, right? That would have been smart. All right, you're not gonna let me add it because reasons. Where's the plus button? Why did they get rid of the plus button on indicators? You know, it really makes me feel dumb when I see stuff like this, but I could have swore there was like a plus button up here for indicators, and now I'm not seeing it. So, and it won't let me right click it. So these are the ones that I've already favorited. Why can't I just click it and add an indicator? Because, Booksy. Life. I was just picking Coca-Cola again because I just haven't ever charted it. I'm trying to chart something that I haven't charted to see if it worked. And we can go back and look at these and back test them, but I'm a little bit lost now. Like, why am I not seeing my indicator thing? That's not it. Am I going crazy? Or is this different? Where do you browse indicators now? Good night. Tool or function? Well, I'm annoyed already. This is obnoxious. Wow, that's cool. But not what I wanted. Oh my gosh. Now I just lost all my indicators. All right. This is going to be a bad day if I can't figure it out. Lord have mercy. All right, no more nonsense. I'm just going to look it up. How to add an indicator. Where did it go? It's like they got rid of it. Yeah, normally you just click the button. So why is it not letting me click the button? This is obnoxious. Mm-hmm. Well, that's obnoxious because for some reason it's not letting me click the button. I'm like trying over and over again. It's not working. May have to close and restart it. Screwed up. Actually, a lot of this is not working. Okay. All right, just a minute. I'll still be here. Let me do something real fast. I'm going to turn off a display capture, and then what I'm going to do is, after I do that, is I'm going to see if I can close and reopen TradingView because it's screwed up. Hey, what's up, Kotaro? How's it going? All right, I'm bringing it back on. What's GMY? It may just be my internet again being laggy, which is weird. There's no reason for that right now, but it happens. Hey, Jason, I'm looking at this while this is loading. Just to address your question about prices. So if the price moves lower, it doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't go back up high. Like we were talking about price targeting with certain metrics, like we were looking at a 50% retracement. Well, if a 50% retracement, if it goes lower, then a 50% retracement is going to be lower, right? And if it's significantly lower, it's going to be significantly lower. If that's kind of the MO. But also, if you lose a support, you lose a support. So there might have been a support that we were looking at with an expectation like, hey, it's not going to lose this support. And then it lost the support, right? And so you're like, well, now I don't know. You really could lose in those situations. You could just kind of lose the overall, like everything. I mean, price targets are flexible. They're not stagnant, and they can be very consistent. Like they can kind of stay the same way for a long time. But I don't find them to be like stagnant. So if I change it, I just change it. It's not personal. All right, now it works. I guess I just had to turn it off, turn it back on. Classic. So this first one we're going to look at is called Smart Money something or other. It's called Smart Money Breakout Channels. And it's by Algo Alpha. This is interesting. They've got like 3. No, they've got 2 here. This is the one I wanted to try though. Now, it's it's supposed to create like boxes that help you determine breakouts. Ooh, this is pretty good, man. Let's see if we can see what's going on here. That's not too bad, although this is really late. I don't know why the channel's not up top. That's kind of messed up. So we're on the daily. Let's go to the 4 hour. Let's see if it changes that. Yeah, it does. It changes it quite a bit, actually. Significantly different. So would this have adequately given you notice ahead of time? I don't know. Right now we're looking at this all in past tense, so all we're seeing is like breakouts as they already happened. Let's check out the daily again. I think I like the larger boxes. This makes more sense to me. So then let's go here. We're going to look at their settings. Nested channels. This allows for overlapping channels. They can show multiple breakouts simultaneously. Strong closes only. Breakouts only trigger when more than 50% of the candle body is outside the channel. This reduces false signals from wicks. When it's disabled, any price movement outside the channel is considered a breakout. Oh, that's good. Higher values create fewer but potentially more significant channels. So let's up this to like 20. Because I want to see if we can reduce the noise. The number of bars used to calculate the highest and lowest low price. Higher values create more stable normalization but are less responsive. So let's do this a little lower. Interesting. Didn't change too much. So one thing you could do is you could pair this with a like a trading plan, but you'd have to like, I don't know if you'd script it or what, but you'd have to look at this in relationship to your trading plan and determine what that would look like. Because I've done that with RSI before. So here's what I don't like about it. I'm already looking at this like, why is this so darn wide? You know, like, wouldn't you want to have this breakout right here and trade it down? And I don't know. I'm not really sure why it's like that. This one's a lot better. This gave you a really good move. This one's fine. I don't know. This one looks like how it's supposed to be almost. But I don't really know why the I don't know why the other is so bad. Like, why is that so off? Don't know. So this one would have worked pretty well. This one, not so much. I mean, you don't even get the breakout signal until here. So this is a bit weird. Let's do the 4 hour again. Same deal. This one's kind of messed up. Let's turn off that overlapping because it's kind of confusing. Let's look at the hourly. Let's say you were just swing trading and you just wanted some good signals. So here you could have had like a stop loss at the bottom. So your entry could have been here, I guess, if the signal actually popped. But I don't think the signal works until it breaks out. So it may have been good to like kind of play the breakout. It's tricky. Meaning like wait for it to break and then. So let's go back to like. No, I'm going to leave this one at 90, but then I'm going to go back to 14 on this one. I'm going to see if I can shorten it again. All right, it's a little cleaner. I'm going to go to a really small time frame and check it out. And then we'll try something else. So you can see like right here, this is indicating like an uptick in volume. So once the range is formed and the volume and volatility starts increasing right here, that's supposed to indicate and help you to know like, hey, there's a price direction change coming potentially. I think this is a difficult one because you'd probably want to use it in combination with some other things more than likely. Which I don't know, that could make it kind of redundant. A lot of times you can kind of see the volatility coming anyways if you're just watching volume. Yeah, so this one's okay. I think I probably would have to go in and check out. Maybe we can change some of these other things. So this is important, this delta time frame source. So it says the time frame used to calculate volume delta data. Lower time frames provide more granular volume analysis, but may be noisier. So that's pretty important. They won't let me do that because of my subscription. Let's try 6 minute. That's interesting. So here's another thing that's kind of weird is like, that didn't change based on whatever time frame I was in. So that's kind of curious. Let's go back to 100. So there's a lot less here. So it's not even identifying the same amount of ranges. Now let's go to like 2 hour. One more thing. And we'll go to like an AMC or something and try it out. Because we know kind of what we look for on those. We're pretty used to it. I just wanted to see something fresh. So I was looking at this Coca-Cola one just to see what I could see. And I guess like anything, if you found a weekly trading pattern that was breaking out, it'd probably be a lot stronger. So these are much more reliable. These are pretty good, at least in the short term. There isn't one here, which is kind of a bummer down here. I don't know if you could fix that, but there is one here and then here. Those are really good. And this one, pretty decent moves off those. So if you traded here down, it's 10%. If you trade it here up, again, it depends on where you want to get out. If you're just watching trend breaks, probably be okay, about 13%. This one's a little weaker. Trend breaks pretty fast. It's only about 5%. So this one works decently well. Now there's issues here of like this, which this reversed super fast. But again, if you just trade it only with trend breaks, this could be a really useful one on like the weekly, because you could just get out anytime it breaks through the trend and then just call it a day. That's not bad. Now, time-wise, this doesn't give you very many trades. This is like 2 trades a year, and it's not really very good. So you'd have to trade a lot of different things if you wanted to use something like this. And then I don't really like the daily. I don't know. There's just not that much. I'd have to play with it some more. Let's try this out on like an AMC or something. Let's see what we can see. Yeah, so I was hoping it would just carry over. It did. Hey, look at that. That's interesting. So this one is in progress, and it hasn't yet broken out, but you can see like the trend that's the support and resistance, obviously where you think they're supposed to be. The middle, right around 317. It's the previous middle, right? You can see that mark goes through everything right there. That's what we've been looking at pretty consistently, so we're right about that. So what does this mean, this little bar? So it's starting to develop, I guess the metric that they're looking for here is starting to develop it. So we're using like a 6-minute one. Let's go back to that and then see if we can change it to 1 minute, which is the lowest I can go. It didn't really change much. But it does suggest that there's a moving coming of some kind, markup or markdown. And it looks like it's kind of swaying down, but I don't know if that means... Again, I've really never used this, so... This is garbage over here. Let's check the weekly. I'm curious. Let's see what this did on the big picture. That's interesting. I don't know what this is about. This is from a long time ago. I have no idea what this stuff is. This looks like it was shifted. Like from a really high... I was probably messing around with this bottom a long time ago. But that's not anything right now. And it looks like it changed when the chart changed. And then I don't think this is logarithmic, so it's causing it to look kind of weird. Where's the log scale? Just wanted to see it a little bit better. Yeah, see this is fine, but like this is humongous. See how it doesn't define the range? This is very interesting though, because at the same time, what have we been using on AMC? We've been using this as like a metric for potentially where that top is. I think that's super fascinating to me anyways, because I'm like, that's a weird... It's just a weird range, like the way that is. But we've been using this top as like a pretty important metric. So let's see. It's got a range right now. That's good. So I think it'd be a similar setup. We were talking about this before, but here forward is where that starts hiking up, increased activity, and then here forward, hiking up, increased activity. It's pretty fascinating. Hey, what's up, Skull? That's really interesting. And look at that presumption that we made, which was that, again, like this was the sort of like where that top would be, and you'd have to kind of break back above there. But we've already known that too for a little while, so the bigger difference here is like, where is this creek, you know? Where is this moving? That's a tougher question to ask. It's pretty low. Like I have to be down here. So that leaves a lot more space, doesn't it, for buy-in. But anyways, this doesn't tell you that it's breaking out until it's already like moved. So one of the problems with this indicator would be, again, it's a little bit delayed. And I'm not really sure how to fix that. I guess you just fiddle with the settings till you get it, tell you where you want it. Which I suppose we could try to do. These are pretty decent. This one. This one and this one. I'm not sure about these guys. This is a really weird looking range right there. I don't know why I picked that as a range. And again, it's not the most helpful. It's kind of like right here, we already knew this broke out. So if you're waiting, you may not have traded the breakout. You could have traded this, which I think most of us did anyways. Same thing here. You may not have traded the breakout moment because that's where the thing would have signaled. But if it has a backup and then goes again, you could trade it. Those are good swings. I don't know. It's a cool visualization, but I was kind of hoping for more. There's another one that they made, which is a little different. And it was called Interest Index. It was called Smart Money Breakout Signals. Let's see if this is any different. It doesn't want to add it, or did it just click it wrong? I clicked it wrong. I think I went to the oh, it didn't pull it up. What the? What is that in the corner? It's so tiny, I can't even read it. It's so small. I can't see any of that. Defines the number of candles used to determine market structure. Larger values smooth out market structure but may delay the signals. BOS confirmation type. Specifies whether a candle close or a wick surpassing the previous swing point is used to confirm break of structure. Show change of character. Enables or disables the display of change of character labels, highlighting the first structural break against the trend. Inputs in status line, bear bull colors. This is kind of interesting because if you look here, like you can see that that was the breakdown. So this is a pretty decent one for confirming. This is the same deal. This is where the sign of weakness is right here. So every time it like punctures through that trend, you're getting that sign of weakness. And then the same thing in reverse when it goes back above, like this top, which we were looking for because we looked for that higher high. So right there. So it's almost the same as the other one. Maybe one of the main issues was like if you had entered a selling position here, you would have missed the backup, and here as well. Like it did it like the same way every time. So every time it drops through, it comes back above, which is what I call like the hook, right? So it drops through and then it comes back up. That's just the normal, that's like a normal thing in the market, right? I mean, and for what we do, it's like, that's pretty much always how it works, is that you're going to get that backup. So like, this would be really useful as a metric if you're able to determine like, okay, that's definitely a break. And then probably just wait for that confirmation rejection, which is just, again, like the cat ear, second cat ear drop kind of thing. What's going on?
TV broke.
Okay. This one's not as nice to you because it doesn't have a very good one, but you'd probably wait till here. So the entries are here down. That one's pretty big. That's a dropping entry, of course. Here down, assuming that you actually caught this top and just kind of let it go. Looking at where it comes back down and rejects. These are big moves in reverse. And then going to the upside, it's kind of the same thing, but I wouldn't, I mean, I already had bought in back here. So, I mean, it already jumped over. So this was a little bit more of like a confirmation. But it's the same concept if you think about it, because this had punctured the top. We were looking for that. I said it needed to make the higher high, remember, at like 320. Once it made the higher high, then you look for the backup. That's the same thing here. It's like it makes the lower low, you wait for that backup, and then the advancement it's the exact same. It's just in reverse, right? You're waiting for that moment, and then the buy-in. So this is a very simple and easy to use trading tool. I don't think that it may have been the easiest, though, in cases of like here, and even here on the bullish side. The bearish side tends to be like really well, you can kind of see what I mean. It tends to be very well advertised. Like there's clear like back and forth for quite a while. The bull side tends to be very, very fast and doesn't give you a whole lot of notification about it. Like there's nothing here until it pops over the top. And even then it's like you would have had to get it on the backup and then the breakout, which happened like that day for about an hour. So when it popped up high, it came back down to like 320. That would have been the same thing, like that we're talking about, where it had advanced over the top. So it signals that, yeah, we're advancing. But then you have to wait for the back out and wait for it to come back above. So you would not have gotten in, which is fine, but you would not have gotten in here at like 289. You would have entered at like 360 or 370, which in retrospect, would that have mattered very much? Probably not. You may have lost a little bit on that, but it was like most of the move was 230% was after that anyways. So unless you bought down bottom, which I did, I mean, I bought it like 245 or something ridiculous, and then I bought again here. There's not really much to say about that in terms of like losing profit. Like you probably would have still made a ton. This doesn't give you any price targets. So that's another thing that may be a little bit off here is like there's no price targets. But as a tool for like breakouts, like this is the breakout and the backup, breakout, breakdown. This is actually pretty darn good. I like this one better than the other one, but I guess you could use them in combination. It'd probably be fine. I think you could use them in combination. So this guy, Algo Alpha, created both of these, and they're both pretty decent. I think they're pretty good. And this is interesting because, like, what is this even backing up to? All of these have, like, a backup that goes somewhere. I guess it was this one right there. It's kind of an oddball, though. It's, like, curved. It's very odd. It's, like, flat. This might be helpful for later, just to kind of remember where that last backup was. I do think it's curious that there's no, there's no backup here. Like, why wasn't there one there? I don't know. There's a little one, but it's not much. Anyways. So this is an interesting one for me. There's no range here. Like, that doesn't show you anything. So, like, these guys have a clear change of character moment. This hasn't even set it up yet on this particular indicator. So I'm not hiding anything. I'm just showing you, like, there's nothing here. So they don't have anything set up right now. The indicator doesn't read or understand it or see it. However, the other one did. The other one showed a range when we were on like the daily or something. So maybe we can change the timing too. See, this showed it on the daily. I wonder if this one shows on the daily. Let's turn this off. That's interesting. So this is a secondary breakout, and that's where the backup was. Very interesting. So this would be useful for continuation, because once it broke out here and you go to the daily time frame, there's like two spots. So one buy-in is there, and there's actually another second spot where it had to back up. So it advances and backs up, just like this advances and backs up. And then same deal. If that's the case, you know, you look at like that and you say, where is it backing up to? You know, why is it backing up to anything there? It may just be the horizontal level, but I'm curious. There might be something else here. Maybe this. Yeah, that would make sense. Anyways, because then later it jumps back above after punching below it. This kind of line right here makes me really nervous, because it did establish support here, and then it just pushes away from it like indefinitely. I don't like that. It's going to $1, man. Well, those are things that probably were, you know, in view. Not necessarily going to go there, but yeah. And then again, smaller time frames maybe a little less reliable. So this one's pretty darn good on the 4-hour. I'm not really liking it as much on the daily or on the 2-hour. 4-hour one though is really nice, which follows. I mean, AMC likes to use its 4-hour time frame, which is a half day, half a trading day, and it does use a lot of those moving averages quite religiously at times. So it makes sense to me. There's probably some magic in those numbers. Magic numbers. This isn't really anything fancy, by the way. I just drew that there because it's probably the same line we've messed with before. That's where the resistance is at the moment. So yeah. So that one's pretty good. Let me see if I can find the next one. I didn't have it queued up, and we took a minute to get started because my silly trading view was messed up. But I've got others, so I'm going to take a look. See if I can find it. So I really don't have that much to kind of run through. I just wanted to do something different. And I found some good ones more recently, so I wanted to look at them. If it hits $1, do you think we could bounce up? I think kind of like what happened here, you'd probably expect like a strong reaction. Then it would probably come back down. Let me put it this way, like right as we stand right now, right? So maybe around $3. You could say that's close to the floor. $3 down to maybe about $2.50. If you were saying like, hey, this is where the liquidity shelf is, you would say it's like right there. Well, everything below that is unexplored, right? So if you went all the way down to $1, that's not like a significant or insignificant number. We're talking about like an entire new range. So it would be really odd if this hit here and just sat there on the one hand, because I think there'd be a huge amount of buying. I don't even know how they get you there, but there'd probably be a huge amount of buy up. I think you'd have a big reaction back up. Would it be like this one where it drops really low first and then comes back up later? I don't know. Maybe. You could see it go down to 60 cents. That's where the ape was. Remember? Ape went down to like 60 cents or something ridiculous low, and then later it came back up to like $2. That'd be a very similar story to like the ape saga. Do I think that's possible? Yeah, I mean, anything's possible in the market. It's silly to think that couldn't happen just because. There's a lot of people out there who just like think this kind of stuff just never could possibly happen. And I'm like, look, man, you don't know what tomorrow brings, neither do I. And the idea of it going up and having some kind of a radical sell down is just not that big of it's not that big of a controversy to me. It's fairly straightforward. We've seen AMC do this several times for different reasons. Well, what about all these operators that you talk about? Yeah, they're holding the bags, They've got 40 million shares, 42 million, 45 million. Vanguard does. What do you think happens if they pull the plug on 45 million shares? You know what I mean? I'll tell you what happens. We drop like a rock. Now, I don't know why exactly you would do that and sell for a loss. That doesn't really make sense to me. But they did it here. They dropped like 60 million. So maybe they sold really early and the rest of it's just FOMO. PHH is crossing his trend line. But I would never look at something like this and ever say to somebody like, I don't think it could happen just because. I think that you have to take things with a grain of salt and suggest that, well, if it did happen, it's probably going to happen in a way that's technically sensible. You know, maybe again, coming back to Checa Creek, there'd have to be other things at play here than just, oh, we just feel like going down. Like that doesn't make any sense. And I think the breakouts would be fairly obvious. A lot of this stuff, it's easy to kind of imagine that it's somehow like mysterious and hidden and all this crud. It's not usually. I think we talked about this previously because we said that it was basically going back and retesting this trend line from like way back here. And that's really what this is. I do think the chart shift plays a part in that, but like that's what this is. Did they go below it? Technically, yeah, they did. So why couldn't you make an argument that from a technical standpoint that this is like building out a gigantic cat ear, right? 1, 2, that's going to dump off the face of the earth, where this is ear 1 and this is ear 2. I mean, you can, because this happened before. I was saying this before, like it's not really something I want to like sit around and think about all day. It's certainly a possibility, though. And I think you should be very aware of what is possible in the market, And this was an August to August move. This is an August to August move. Oh no, it's going to do the same thing. It looks pretty darn similar. Yes, it does. We've been stressing that for a little while now. Like, there's a lot of similarities in this setup. I think if you wanted to make that argument, I'm trying to say that I think you probably could, that this is still in like a distribution phase. Why not? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do it, but if you wanted to do it, I think you could probably try to make that argument. That there's some strong similarities here. It seems apparent to me, especially in like this early markdown phase where the setup has, I don't know if I like that. Kind of this like early drop. Now, what are the key differences? Like, there's some pretty obvious ones. Like this is super low, this reaction up. And then it goes into like this secondary reaction and then down, right? That's very similar to what we're seeing here, but this is a very, very low reaction, and this is extremely high by comparison. And then it doesn't ever go low, like it doesn't stay low. So, J-low. So like at this point, do I think it is setting up for a drop? Yeah. That's a cat ear, probably. The question isn't, is it going to do that? Is it going to set up for a drop? That's not really the question I'm asking. We've already talked about this for years. Like, this is a iterative motion inward. The real question is what happened here that caused it to drop versus what could happen here that might cause it to rise. The inverted motion could play out here. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me for a number of reasons. And if you're really like stuck on that idea and you're really concerned about, well, what's going to happen? Again, I can't make any promises. But what I can say is that in theory, like this is kind of the exact same concept right here as this guy right here. It's just the way in which it sets up in the range. So the waveforms are pretty much the same. The way it sets up is different. I don't think Powell's talking today. I could be wrong. I don't think they have like a public meeting today. They have a meeting, but I don't think there's like a public meeting. So I'm making an argument that like this is not, in some ways this is no different. There are some very obvious differences. I don't want to confuse anybody. There are certainly some differences, but in some ways there's very little, at the same time. So it's like a little bit of both. It shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone that this is where this is, like look at where this is back here. And then where we think it might go, on a breakout. We don't know if it's going to go in one fell swoop or not, but even if it did go all the way up, that's like $20. Surprise. Not really. Yeah, but what if it drops, man? What if we're dead? Yeah, it might be. I don't know. That's not very comforting, Booksy. Yeah, I know. We're dead, man. We're dead. This is the comparison I drew last time, and I said that if you look at what happened here, and if you look at where that gap is, because this is where the gap is, right? So, like, there's a lot of noise on this chart. If you want to just kind of do comparisons, it can make it look really ugly. This is where the gap is right here. This is where the gap is back here, right? Yes, like there's some negativity surrounding this idea that we're bonking our heads on a wall, kind of like we did up here. And there's certainly problems with that. But again, like this is not that different from what happened here when it hit that area, it walked down. So like, look at where the walk down is here as a LSPY kind of starts building up sideways action, right? Up thrust, dropping. And you compare that to where this was, prior to that walk down. And then when you start looking at it that way, the shapes don't really seem that odd. Like that initial walk down really is like, oh, this was like right here. Like it has some differences in appearance here and there, but it's not that different, I think the idea that it's somehow like way, way different is just not true. And then when it builds out, this is building out very promising. It's pushing and trying to advance, very rounded looking. This is very flat, stays really sideways. And ours is kind of a mix of the two. It really is, because it's very rounded in the beginning, no doubt. Way more than this was. We didn't come back down to the bottom till like way late. We stayed up high like almost the whole time, which is more similar to what happened here, But on the whole, like, was there still this like curvature down? Yeah, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. I guess what I'm trying to say is like this idea that this is somehow radically different is really not true. There have certainly marked similarities. This is why I was saying that I do not want to see it pop before it drops. That's why I've been stressing that a lot. It's already doing that. Right? It already did this drop here, just like it did back here. There's a drop in, and then it popped up, and now it's like chopping, like it's going to drop. It's the same thing that's going on right now, where you've got this sideways action, and it's popping. You really don't want to see it drop right here and just drop off the face of the earth. What's going to prevent that from happening? You tell me, dilution announcements maybe cause that to happen, but this is not, again, although I don't think they're the same exactly, this isn't that different from what happened here either, where this has an advancement and then it drops the thing and then it goes, low without actually advancing it.